Speaker, the President's attempt to sanitize the lived reality of South Africans fell flat on Thursday night. His revisionist and dishonest fairy tale is an insult to those who know the truth. They know the truth because they live it. They know what was told to them was a lie concocted by a bunch of speechwriters and not the daily nightmare that was once touted as the new dawn. I would like to perhaps assist the President to understand how the other side lives. I would like to introduce him to real stories of real South Africans. His fictional character, Tinswalo, a child born without democracy, is an exception and not the rule. In this country, the reality of young people is too bleak for words. Let me introduce you to Thabang, Mr. President, a 29-year-old man born in 1995. His family has lived in Alexandra all his life, and his entire worldview is characterized by lack, by poor service delivery, joblessness, and hopelessness. None of his family members have made it out or escaped the clutches of poverty. And under the Ramaphosa presidency, there's no hope that he ever will. Despite his matric qualification, he's unlikely to ever get an opportunity to study further or get a job that will give him a life of the dignity that he deserves. In fact, he was there, Mr. President. He was there when, in the heat of an election campaign, you, Mr. President, promised the people of Alex 1 million new homes. He watches with dismay when you speak tough on corruption, yet your very own Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, has been embroiled in the looting of money meant for the Alex Renewal Project. Thabang watches with dismay when you, Mr. President, speaks tough on corruption, when allegations of corruption and looting have been leveled against the Deputy President of the South African Republic, and he sits right next to you. How do you expect young people to take you seriously when in your very own cabinet you sit there and you entertain people who have allegations leveled against him? Your hypocrisy is not lost on him. He does not need to be sold a lie, Mr. President. He wakes up to a nightmare of broken promises every day. And he's unlikely and he's very likely to be persuaded to a life of crime. Because quite frankly, the life that young people in South Africa are living is hell in South Africa. Allow me, Mr. President, to also introduce you to Langalam Viki from Ekomani, a 3-year-old child who died inside a pit toilet because your government failed to uphold basic human rights of learners in schools. Yours, Mr. President, is a government that has trapped an entire generation of poor black children to a life of poverty. Xa izikolo ingezizwe indawo zabantwana bayofundela zingamangcwaba kukhona okonakeleyo. I would like to remind you, Mr. President, of Bongeka Buso and her children, Anati, Arabile, and Uratile. Bongeka was a mother of 3 children, Mr. President, from Ektua, who decided to end her life and her children's due to the poverty crisis that has been engulfing millions of South Africans across the country. Bongeka, Mr. President, made a choice that no mother in this country should ever have to make. She decided to end her life so that she can stop looking at her children's expectant faces every day with no hope in sight. South Africa is not a poor country. It is unfair and unconstitutional that anybody should go to bed hungry every night. South Africa is simply a country that is poorly led by an uncaring government. It is a crime, Mr. President, that severe malnutrition for children under the age of 5 has risen by 26%. We know that 12,000 children have died in hospital since 2013. And most recently, the census has revealed that at least 2 million households in this country are experiencing hunger and forced to skip a meal a day. These are not just numbers. These are people who put their trust in you and you have let them down. Eyona nto ibuhlungu yeyokuba kudala abantu benemonde, kudala belinde lo rhulumente owaye bathembise ubomi obuphucukileyo. Kudala abantu beginya noba kukraka benethemba kuba noko nizade nikhuzane, ningabayekeli betshatyalaliswa yindlala. Elo themba liphelile. Bayabona ubana lo urhulumente uphethwe ngabantu abazimisele ukutya imali yoluntu bade bayihlohlele entloko. Sebeyiqonda ukuba lona umbutho we-ANC ayisenguwo loba bemazi. Sebayayazi into yobana lona umbutho ngumbutho okhohlakeleyo. Yintoni nibakhohlakalele kangaka abantu boMzantsi Afrika? Ngoba kaloku yinkohlakalo mongameli into yabantu abayi-30 million abangabi nakutya umhla nezolo. Yinkohlakalo mongameli into yobana abantu abatsha bangafumani imisebenzi, begcakamela ilanga kumakhaya, befumbathe izidanga ezazifunyanwe ebunzimeni. Yinkohlakalo mongameli into yabantwana abancinci abaswelekayo yindlala in 2024. And to add insult to injury, our people are gaslit by the ANC government when they hold you to account. Their loyalty is demanded and they are routinely reminded to be grateful to the ANC. What is clear from the president's reluctance to recount the key tangible deliverables of the past term is that these are few and far between. He decided to do some fancy footwork on Thursday by focusing on the past 30 years instead of focusing on his 5 years in government. You see, he too is ashamed of his record in government. He too knows that South Africans are worse off today than they were in 2019 when he took over that office. And he too knows that his government's time is up. The people have finally seen through your sloganeering, which does not translate to real change for the people who need it most. Your fudging of the numbers fools no one, because people should not have to be told about your record in government, they should experience it. And so, as we look towards a post-ANC South African democracy, it is clear that we need a serious alternative government, a government that will not demand another 30 years from office from the people that it serves, a government that is content with being on a 5-year contract to deliver against its promises. And looking at these benches, I can tell you, Mr. President, political party, you certainly cannot be trusted with mending the very thing that you once broke. And so I would like to turn my attention in particular to the people at home, to speak to you directly. I want to assure you that inhlungu yabantu benu bantu baseMzantsi Afrika does not fall on deaf ears. An alternative is within reach, a caring government that works for you. Urhulumente ozanikhupha ebugxwayibeni, anikhuphe entluphekweni, ukuze niphile ubomi onanibuthenjisiwe 30 years ago. Allowing people to languish in poverty has been one of the most spectacular failures of this government, but it doesn't have to be this way. A DA-led government, amongst other things, would prioritize creating jobs and lifting people out of poverty. The 7 out of 10 young people at home who do not have work, I want to assure you, you will be gainfully employed. I want to ensure you that we, unlike Honorable Sylvia Lucas, will not tell you that load shedding is not the end of the world. We will make sure that we solve the energy crisis so that you can find a job, so that you can live a life of dignity. To deal with the crippling poverty, we would increase the child support grant to the same level as the official poverty line. This child support grant would ensure that it covers pregnant mothers to support child nutrition. We would make sure that this SRD grant
As you conclude, Honourable Member,
will make sure that it is essentially turned into a job seekers fund. As a caring government, we would ensure that a safety net for the most vulnerable in our society is there. These interventions are fully costed. They are sustainable, they are needed and they are urgent. They will save lives This is the pledge I'm making to the people at home. I want to assure you, help is on the way. It's not coming from this side of the house.
Time is up.
But it's coming from this side of the house.
Guys, I want to hear from you. What did you think of that speech? Do let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until the next one.